A famous Nigerian artist, best described as African China, once sang in one of his numerous songs, Lead Us World. In the song, the Nigerian artist emphasized on good governance and respect of democracy, in which he noted that only good governance can help the African continent and its people to advance in development. A similar view in which he noted that if you are a president, you should lead us well. If you are a senator, represent us well. If you are a policeman, guide us well and don't take bribe. If you are an elected official, you should lead us well. These same views were shared by a revered Cameroonian artist, best described as Andre Dicalo, in which the artist saw the issue of good governance in Cameroon and African continent. He noted the numerous bribes being collected by some unscrupulous policemen. He also noted the poor governance system by some elected officials, in which he cried out foul that if things are not well handled, the Cameroon's economy, as well as the people of Africa, may not seem to be like those of other Western nations in a world where competition seems to be at its height. Andre Dicalo said, if you are a politician, lead us well. And in which he sang in French, he said, si tu es un policier, continue. Le moment viendra où ça va changer. Ça va changer. Ça va changer. Le moment viendra où ça va changer. And these artists who sang this song, it's been over a decade since these songs were all sung, in which they picture the difficulties being faced in Cameroon and in Nigeria. 10 years or more since these songs were sung, the situation in African continent has moved from bad to worse. In Nigeria, insecurity in some parts of the country is the order of the day. The people of the different states, some are finding it difficult to put food on their table. A similar situation plagued Cameroon, where the increase in prices of basic food commodities is now a new normal. As we speak right now, basic commodities are all times high. In fact, many economists have described the situation in Cameroon as experiencing a hyperinflation. And inflation is a situation in an economy where the purchasing power of money is lower than that of goods and services. To put it in simple words, where 10,000 francs cannot buy a good worth the amount of people it can't meet to. The cost of living in Cameroon is now very high as opposed to the standard of living. The standard of living is low as the situation continues to plague. One is tempted to say that these artists had foresaw the existing realities in Cameroon, in Africa, and the continent as a whole. But all these, as the prices of commodities skyrocket in Cameroon with the Anglophone crisis in the northwest and southwest region, the insecurity in Douala, where we have the microbe with the banning of bikes from the period of 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. as far as insecurity is concerned. In the far east, in the eastern part of Cameroon, with the Seleka rebel threat, the Boko Haram insurgency across the nation, a lot needs to be done. Is it not time for the leaders to increase salary and re-establish a minimum wage in a situation where 1,000 francs cannot get a liter of oil, in which 500 francs cannot be equitable for a common family to feed, even to have a meal a day? Many Cameroonians are asking questions. Is it not time for us to relook into the issue of salaries also and to reset a minimum wage? The minimum wage of Cameroon is 37,500 francs CFA, and then you can be paid above all. But as you experience now, taxes for some other things have increased to 50%. Vignette, roadworthiness have all increased, as well as the fiscal stamp has increased from 1,000 to 1,500 francs CFA. This is the time that many Cameroonians are expecting the government to set the new precedents by increasing their salaries to meet up with the increase in taxes. This is House of Commons with me, Tah Mai Javis. You're welcome back, and if you are just joining us, you're watching House of Commons with me, Tah Mai Javis, where we are looking at the increment in salary. And as many Cameroonians are asking, is it not also time to increase salaries of workers across the private and public sector to catch up with the increase in prices of commodities, increase in transportation, to catch up with also the increase in healthcare? Because as we speak right now, the prices of medicines and also treatment has also increased, and this time around many want that salaries also should be looked into and a minimum wage should be set. Joining us in the studio we have Innocent Barozil, who is a member of a civil society, who is joining us for this Sunday. Innocent Barozil, happy Sunday.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Tah Mai Javis, and happy Sunday to all the viewers of my Media Prime, particularly the program House of Commons. I want to say happy Sunday to my colleague, Mr. Fred, who is a keen follower of this program. Happy Sunday to my fellow panelists, and I believe we'll do justice to the program because prices of goods and services are skyrocketing. In fact, if there was another term that we can put there more than hyperinflation, I think that we will apply it because the price of goods and services are increasing on daily basis. So we shall try to look into that. And salaries are remaining the same, both in the private and in the public sector.
Okay.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much. Innocent Barozil is also a teacher across some schools in the littoral region, in Douala to be more precise. And also in the studio we have Nick Anu, who is also a member of the civil society. Nick, happy Sunday and thanks for joining us.
Happy Sunday, Mr. Tah Mai Javis, and thanks also for having me. Happy Sunday to fellow Amaras of my Media Prime, House of Commons. And Merry Christmas to all of them. A special happy Sunday to Amin Kelly watching us from Boya, and to all our viewers in the legendary hospitality town of Boya. Thank you. Happy Sunday.
Thank you very much. Also in the studio we have Mr. Vitalis Clement, who is a member of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, CPDM, joining us here at the moment when many Cameroonians are raising a question: is it not time for salary increment with the increase in taxes and prices of basic commodities, where the take-home package of many civil servants and those within the private sector cannot even take them home as the month comes to an end? Mr. Vitalis, happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday, Mr. Javis. Happy Sunday, all the televiewers. I should say Merry Christmas to my family, especially my wife, Madame Kiyung Devon Berinye, and my little Benjamin son, Kimbang Samuel Bunye. And I also want to say that we have a good topic that we are going to be dwelling on it, because at this particular moment in time, everybody is confused because the cost of living in Cameroon is becoming very, very unbearable. So I just hope that we'll discuss a very our discussion here is going to throw more light on those things that are really worrying us.
Thank you very much. To put this in simple economic words, the value of money has really increased. Which the value of money is what money can buy in terms of goods and services. Now, if 1,000 francs can buy a bunch of plantain, and now a bunch of plantain is 5,000 francs, so the value for money, that 5,000 francs is equal to a bunch of plantain, so the value of money for that 1,000 francs is no longer there. So the 1,000 loses its value. In a nutshell, if 3 cups of gari cost 100 francs, and now a cup of gari costs 200 francs, for example, a cup of gari costs 200 francs, the 100 francs becomes very useless, which means that the value for one cup of gari is 200 francs, and 100 francs become useless in a situation what we call a hyperinflation. Now, let's say a bag of rice costs 16,000 francs as it used to be, but this time a bag of rice is about 22,000 francs CFA, some 25, some 26, depending on the quality. But the low grade this time around is about 18 to 19,000 francs CFA. So therefore, the 16,000 francs for a bag of rice becomes very useless. If you go now to the other aspect of vignette, where you will, let's take about physical stamp. The physical stamp before now used to be 500 francs, later on increased to 1,000. So the value for 1,000 is a physical stamp, but now it has been increased to 1,500. So therefore, you have to get the physical stamp. You have 1,000. That 1,000 francs becomes useless because you need to add 500 to it. To this, in economy, we call it a hyperinflation or a galloping inflation, where it increased tremendously. And as so on, we come now to the scale of salary. The salary still remains the same, but whereas whereas the value for money has increased. So if it has decreased, rather, the value for money has decreased. If you look at the purchasing power of money, it's kind of very low as in terms of the goods and services in the market. Take for instance, somebody who earns 38,000 francs CFA, let's say 38,000 francs CFA, and has to pay the rent because landlords have also increased their rent in some localities. Have to pay a rent in a modest of neighborhood where you have an internal toilet, within it what we call the modern room with internal toilet. He or she pays 25,000 or 25,000, let's put it the least, 25,000 per month, and he earns 38,000. That 25,000 per month minus 38,000, he's left with over about 9,000 or 8,000. He or she needs to get a bag of rice, he or she needs to get gari, he or she needs to pay electricity bill. In a nutshell, the take home of that person cannot take him home, which means the 38,000 francs becomes useless because he cannot get the purchasing power. That is what we are looking at today, which is why Cameroonians are asking the question, is it not time for salary increment and a renegotiation of minimum wage? I begin with you, Mr. Clement Vitalis. You have the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, and I know you are very objective when it comes to looking at issues that affect the country and the nation. And we look at the situation. Many Cameroonians are asking the question, is it not time to renegotiate minimum wage and increase salary? What's your take on this situation?
Yes, Mr. Javis, the problem here is not a Cameroonian problem. Unfortunately, it's a problem that's affecting the whole world. And I think that salary increase cannot solve the problem of cost of living in Cameroon. What can solve the cost of living in Cameroon is that if we invest more in agriculture, then we make sure that we cut taxes, then we subsidize basic necessities that we import, then it is going to solve the problem. Because if the government increase, everybody needs an increase in salary. Maybe to the increased salary, I will also be happy. But I think I've said it's not going to solve the problem because the more you increase salaries, the more people are going to increase the goods that are in the market. If you notice, you will discover that the goods and services in the market, the prices are increasing on a daily basis. Meaning that if salaries are increased, the prices will still be increasing. So the best thing for government to do is that they should maybe cut down taxes, then make sure that they encourage agriculture, invest more in agriculture. I think with that one, we are going to solve the problem. But if you notice, you discover that the other day I was asking one woman selling corn that prices have gone up. I was asking, is it corn coming from Ukraine too? Why is that you have increased the price of corn? What she told me was that the price of fertilizer has gone up. Consequently, they have to increase the price of corn because they use fertilizer to cultivate corn. So you know that it's a chain, and this chain is not only tied around salaries, but it's tied mostly around agriculture. Because most Cameroonians depend on agricultural products. So if we can invest more on agriculture, or government can help subsidize agriculture, then I think it's going to bring down the prices of it's going to bring down the cost of living in Cameroon.
Okay, I remain with you. You said you don't see that salaries should be increased, it will not solve the problem, yes. And that it should be taxes. Yes. At the moment where the regime in power, under the banner of CPDM, have increased the taxes, in some instances 50%, like we discussed it, I think, a week ago, or look at vignette. The government is bent on the fact that they need these taxes in order to generate more resources in the future. And the common man in itself feel the impact. Do you think that this government, which has increased taxes to about 50% in some cases, 10% in others, like the exportation of cocoa beans, the price has been increased, 10% of export, which now will affect farmers who depends on this agriculture. And now we also discourage many from importing our cocoa beans. Do you see this government as possible, as a government that may reduce these taxes in the near future?
As I said, it's a global issue. It's not
which means that also the increase in taxes is a global issue.
It's a global issue that is not only particularized in Cameroon, because if you look at it, the Minister of Agriculture was in the National Assembly the other day when he was telling us how they're going to help farmers to cultivate more crops so that we can feed the nation. And if you look at like the vignette and the rest, it doesn't affect the common man like foodstuff and the rest. Because how many Cameroonians owns vehicles? And those who own vehicles are the privileged ones. So if taxes are levied on them, I don't think that it is very, very bad.
Okay, you just hold it. Let me come. Hold it. Let me just follow you up before we get confused. You said the increase in price of BVNEC definitely may not really affect the common man, but may affect those who are privileged to own cars. But you raised an issue that you went to buy maize, and the lady increased the price, and you asked, is it coming from Ukraine? And she said, price of fertilizers have increased. These fertilizers will be transported by trucks of companies. We who have to pay VNET, that have increased to 50%. These fertilizers, these parents will also need to go and buy, will take normal transportation. They don't own a car, but they will pay transportation. And the transportation price has also increased. By default, are you saying that they will still not feel the burden? The common man will still not feel the burden?
If you look at it critically, most the VNET and the rest, they have been increased mostly with the private cars. With the private car, not with transportation, transport vehicles. So the only way, as I've said, for government to solve this situation is to invest more in agriculture. If we don't invest more in agriculture, even if government says everybody earns 1 million today, it's not going to help anything. The prices of food stuff and the rest, because what we are crying here is not our main cry is food stuff. Our main cry, everybody is crying of food stuff. We talk about rice, we talk about corn and the rest, things that are consumable. That is where we have a major problem, because most of us are depending on, most Cameroonians are depending on those things. So I think that the only way for government to survive is to invest more in agriculture, because agriculture is the key in this century.
Thank you very much. We'll come back to you. Innocent Baruzi, do you share his view or you disagree?
Yes, I wish to say that when we talk of when price is increasing, there are, it refers to inflation. And inflation, you have cost push inflation and demand pull inflation. So cost push inflation is a situation where cost of raw materials, where the cost of production has increased. Now, if you look at in the situation of Cameroon, why are these prices increasing? The first of, because we need to establish why the price are increasing. Because we are clamoring for an increase in salary, or this question arises because prices are increasing in the first place. So now, cost push inflation is when the cost of production have increased. Maybe you used to spend 2,000 to produce a bunch of plantain, or a bag of rice, or wheat, or corn, maize, but now you are spending 4,000. Normally you need to sell it more because you are spending more to produce it. Now, demand pull inflation too is a situation to where when the demand is more than the supply. I mean, many people want a particular product and that product is not readily available. And now if you look at it in the situation of Cameroon, you realize that the cost of taxes have increased. Like the Ukraine war, because most fertilizer comes from Russia, around Russia and Ukraine. Now there is war there, fertilizer increased. So normally they are supposed to increase the prices. Now concerning demand, the war in the southwest and northwest regions, and because most groundnut comes from the north. Now groundnut now comes from the north. There is Boko Haram there, which is preventing many people from going to the farm. Now the war in the southwest and other regions also is also preventing people from going to the farm. And because of that, the output of cassava, output of plantains have drastically reduced. And now most of us have abandoned our farms in the southwest and other regions, and now we are here in Littoral, and the population here has increased. Now everything that we were supposed to be taking from our farms, we are now buying. So it means that the more people now are buying in relation to those who are producing. But now, I noticed one thing. Normally, government has increased taxes. Yes, imported goods. Now, but the rate at which price is increasing in the market, you realize that you go to somebody, I bought rice a bag of rice just a few days ago. I realized that same bag which I bought somewhere for 10,000, in another store they told me that the last price is 10,300. But I said no, I cannot buy it for 10,300 because I know that it will be 10,000. I went somewhere and bought it for 10,000 in the same Mamanda market. No, that was in another market. Now, when the price of bread increases, when flour, wheat was not coming from Russia again, now the price of bread increases. I realized that my neighbor who had the store was selling bread the same quantity, the same quality for 350 in this same Douala. I came to Bepanda and realized that the same quantity was 300. Now you go to put chocolate in the bread. Somebody will put chocolate as if he does not want to put it. You go elsewhere, they put the chocolate as if they dash them. Now you ask yourself, are these same people not Cameroonians? Because when we ask that question, most people will look at the government. But we are not supposed to be looking at the government because Cameroonians are supposed to have it right. That Cameroonians are supposed to even the government is not doing what they are supposed to do, but they are put lost. Cameroonians are supposed to at least to have conscience the way they treat Cameroonians. Even in this same Douala, I realized that in Bonaberi, Mamadan market to be precise, a cup of Ghana is sold for 250 francs. In Village, the same quantity, the same quality is sold for 150. Then I asked myself, but why is it that these other people have stole their own, or what is happening? So
if I get you correctly, you're indirectly saying that those who are supposed to do the price control are not doing their job because they are supposed to there to stabilize the prices.
Yes, normally those who are supposed to do the price control are not doing their jobs, but they cannot stand in everybody's table because you go to the market is too fast. What I'm trying to say that Cameroonians should struggle because normally, if the price of a phone increased, if the cost of operation of a phone increased by 10%, at least you should also increase price by 10%. It will be reasonable. But if the price, the cost of operation of a product increased by 10%, and you had to increase price by 50%, as what is happening in Cameroon, you will realize that that is not good for the country. So at least we Cameroonians, we need to be patriotic. We need to be Republican. We need to know that all of us, we are suffering. We need to know that we need to help each other. The government does not have, when the government has put laws, they have always established a price. Even in Munya, I wanted to buy zinc. I realized that 4 different people are selling zinc for 4 different prices. It's true. So, 4 different people are selling zinc for what I'm trying to establish here is that the cost of the prices are not actually when concerns physical stuff. That one is directly related to the government. The price of basic commodities are not related to the government. It's we Cameroonians, our brothers and sisters, our mothers, our parents who are in the market that are increasing those prices. And that is why you will see somebody will sell a bunch of plantain, the same number of fingers, for 10,000. Another person will sell that same one for 5,000.
Okay. So in this case, you are blaming Cameroonians and not the government.
Yes, for now I'm blaming that. Maybe I will come to the understanding of the government.
Okay. Let me just take on the message you react and before coming to Nick. Good afternoon, Mr. Javis. What your panelist is talking is part of the situation. However, not all. What about house rent? What about electricity bills? Please, the government need to increase salaries. It is very important. If you talk about agriculture, even though we are not the best, but I tell you, Cameroonians are trying in terms of agriculture. The government should reduce taxes. Perhaps we can have foreign investors coming to invest in Cameroon. At least it will help to create some job opportunities to the citizens. The truth is a price increase. It is only the common man that is going to suffer. The high ranking men don't care. And this is coming from an anonymous sender. This other right he says, hi, good morning. I am writing from Bamenda. The inflationary spiral in Cameroon is as a result of the increase in cost of production. Increased salary will do no good, but further worsen the situation because more salary means more consumption. Since Cameroon is consumer economy with short-term consumer preferences, increasing salaries will mean more spending and therefore a demand pull inflation. The government has increase taxes on certain things, which is quite wrong. The government instead needs to subsidize these sectors rather than increasing the burden on the people. The problem is the government. The government isn't helping in any way. And as our brother is saying, Cameroonians themselves have a problem. We don't mind helping each other. And this is coming from also an anonymous sender. This one we say, "Hi Javis, this is Marshall on Facebook. Hi Marshall, hope you are doing well." And this one right says, "The problem is not to increase the salaries. There are people who don't have jobs. Grandma, grandpa, what would they do with people with no jobs? I think we'll forget about salaries. We should talk about bringing things down. That is what we should be talking about." Nick Anu, your take. Do you agree with Mr. Kimben that it is a global issue and not just a Cameroonian issue? And so I asked him a question, which I'm sure I'll still ask him about. If it's a global issue, it means that reduction of salary is not possible, because it's also a global issue. Do you agree with the fact that government should also increase prices, rather salaries for some people, so that at least they can catch up?
Obviously, the government is supposed to increase salaries for some people, for them to catch up with the expenditure. You realize that most people are not, they are not living up to standard as in the past, or as opposed to in the past, because of reduction in their purchasing power. We cannot say that the increasing salary will lead to maybe an inflationary spiral. Normally, people are just living with austerity measures at the moment. If you go to the market, you don't determine what you eat. It is a market that determines what you eat. You write a list and go to the market, you see that it is the forces in the market that will determine whether you will go home with those items on your list. So that's the situation that most Cameroonians are facing at the moment. And to overcome that shock, I think a minimal or a progressive increase in salary to balance that gap will go a long way to help many homes, so that maybe they can live life up to a certain standard. We cannot just say that if we increase salary, it will lead to an inflationary spiral. Yeah, inflationary spiral doesn't just occur automatically. It will just increase in salary. It has conditions that it takes to happen. I also think that all of these things is not because of it's not because it is an international problem. Because in Cameroon we are fond of hiding our failures behind international issues or international problems. Yeah, every economy or every country, you're supposed to design your economy in such a way that external shock will not have a drastic measure on the living standard of your people. Of course, what if you say it is globalization? You design every country do what they call protectionism. You design your economy in such a way that if there is a prolonged external shock, you'll be able to maybe manage your economy, your people will be able to eat, and so on and so forth. In Cameroon, since the outbreak of the Ukraine-Russia war, everything we have been basing our argument that it is because of Ukraine. It is because there's war in Ukraine and so on, we cannot import. Meanwhile, in Cameroon, we can grow all those things that were importing from Ukraine. We can grow the wheat we're importing from Ukraine. We can produce our own fertilizers. In neighboring Nigeria, Dangote has a very big refinery that produces fertilizer. Why can we not do it also in Cameroon? Why can we not lobby, even if we cannot do it, why can we not lobby him to come and open one in Cameroon, like we lobby him to open a cement factory in Cameroon? So these are some of the things that the government, it lies on the shoulders of the government to do. And we cannot say that it is agriculture. We know the attitude of this government as concerns agriculture. when President Forba came to power, 1982, he started talking about green revolution, second generation agriculture.
No, Aijo was on green revolution.
Yeah.
Bia was on rigor and moralization.
No, he talked of second generation agriculture.
Yeah, but Aijo policy was based on green revolution, or more on agriculture.
Yeah.
Whereas Bia came now on that, okay, let us move it to second generation. Yeah. But his main policy was rigor and moralization. Before now, he moved now to the second generation.
Yeah, rigor moralization is just a philosophy. We're talking about practical issues. Second generation agriculture that he came to power and has been talking about. I don't know whether what we have even done with the first generation. The first generation is still even struggling. Talk less of going to second generation agriculture. And if a government, if somebody has been in power for 40 years and has not been able to make his people or his country food sufficient, because that is the first thing a serious president is supposed to do. You are supposed to make your country to be food sufficient, so that if there is external shock, it will not affect your people in a way that they can rise up because of hunger. So these are some of the things we are talking about. We cannot be saying that the government should finance agriculture, and so we know the attitude towards agriculture in Cameroon. The government has never been serious when it comes to agriculture. Yeah, they have not been serious when it comes to agriculture, even to support local farmers who are just into subsistence agriculture. We don't. In the past, we used to see our parents, they used to maybe give them fertilizers, but as the time was going, we have never been seeing this kind of gestures again.
You raised some issues. I want us to trust them before the viewers get confused. You talk about the fact that if you have been in power for 40 years and we are still experiencing this, it means there's a problem. And that, in your word, a serious president is supposed to make his country, his people, food sufficient.
Of course.
Are you by default saying that Cameroon is suffering from food insecurity and thus charging the president of Cameroon for not being serious?
Of course, we are suffering from food insecurity. That's not rocket science. You just need to observe and see. We are suffering from food insecurity. In as much as
so you are saying that the president is not serious.
In as much as
no. And so you are saying the president is not serious.
It's not a matter. The president and his government, bunch of government, they are not serious when it comes to agriculture.
No.
Yes, I'm not missing my words. They are not serious when it comes to agriculture, because if Cameroonians are not hungry, if they eat and they are satisfied, there are certain things they will care less about. But if you look at, as of now, many Cameroonians are hungry. They cannot eat. They cannot even eat what they want to eat. Talk less of even eating a balanced diet. It is a luxury in Cameroon to eat a balanced diet. It is not something that is given to the common man. I said when you go to the market, it is a market that determines what you eat in your house. It is not you, the least you ride and go to the market. You ride and go to the market, you find yourself editing the list and doing all of so that your family can eat. So this kind of thing is because in the past, the government has not really taken measures to see that the country should be food sufficient. Food sufficient. You have to first of all produce for your own people first before exporting to the other countries or neighboring countries. But in the past, we don't really see this happening. Food sufficiency, the government has to also control the way they export food, because you will see that most of the time, the government will allow exportation of maybe plantains, cocoyams to neighboring Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, and the common man in Cameroon will find it. I mean, the little we even produce, because the production is not enough, the common man will find it very difficult to buy the little that's left in the market. So consequently, price will increase. Okay. So these are, and you cannot blame those who are selling. Every Cameroonian is a capitalist. In fact, all those selling are capitalists. You cannot moralize them by saying that they should have conscience, as my fellow panelists were saying. They will never have conscience to say that they will sell at a reasonable price. For their aim is to maximize profit. So you cannot begin to call them to conscience. They will never hear that kind of story.
You said that our president and his government have not been so serious.
Of course, they have not been
in
serious.
tackling the issue of food insecurity in
Yes,
Cameroon.
they have not
But
been
when we
serious.
look at the context of the nation, we've seen concerted effort put in by the government of Cameroon under President Biya to see that food sufficiency becomes Cameroon's future, and that Cameroonians should not suffer from food insecurity. Let me quote you instances. The minister of the trade fair in Ebolowa, where we had a trade fair in Ebolowa, where tractors were distributed, and some of the tractors have been left to fallow like grass, like we talk about pastoral nomadism, where you leave a land to fallow. We saw those images circulated on social media, which means that perhaps the ministers went and distributed enough tractors, and there were a lot of people not able to come and collect the other tractors. That's why they allowed it there, that when they finish with the other tractors, they'll come and take that one. Was that not also an effort being put in by the government to solve the issue of food insecurity? We have seen where the president of the nation has on numerous occasions called on the people to go to the farms, and the president himself is a farmer. We saw him in one time images where he was in his pineapple plantation. And we also have seen where there have been series of trade fairs, agro-pastoral trade fairs across Cameroon, and there's a Ministry of Agriculture which has been there to give small aid. Are you saying that these efforts are smoke screened, or better still cosmetic solutions to agriculture in Cameroon?
Of course, they're just playing to the gallery. In 2010 in Ebola, they talk of a pastoral show. Since then, how many pastoral shows have we witnessed in this country again? Of course, I think that sector has even just been abandoned. There's no, they used to do agro-pastoral show at a sub-divisional level, divisional levels, and maybe national level. But we don't even see these things happening again. All of these things used to boost farmers, to encourage most of them to go to the farms and produce more. But we don't see these events happening again. And if you see what happened in Ebola, we don't even want to talk about that, because tractors, the government investing billions to buy tractors, and then they abandon in the bush. The agro-pastoral village today, it is a forest with all those tractors inside. One may question those who were involved in all of that. We may notice that some of those tractors were not even working. Those who were involved in buying them, they did not buy a good tractor, and then they just abandoned them. They were not. There's no follow up. A serious government will have called to order those who were involved in all of that and get them punished. But in Cameroon, we just see all of this laxity, and we can blame the government for that. We are not food sufficient. We import almost everything in Cameroon that we eat. We import rice. Meanwhile, we have rice that can be industrialized. We can industrialize it and then produce in large scale. Most of the rice fields that were existing during the time of President Iju, like the Sancho, there was a rice field there, a rice company producing rice. If you go to the north, Semri is there. But all of these national productions have been abandoned. They have not been encouraged. The government has given leeways to capitalists to invest in importation of rice, high quantity importation of rice, to the abandonment of the natural or the national companies that are in charge of producing rice. You will see that they import more at cheaper prices. The local production will then suffer, because they will not be able to meet cost of production to produce rice and then sell at a reasonable price that a common Cameroonian can buy. So all of this is a problem that a serious government is supposed to make it a commission that is in charge of studying the agricultural season of the country, to make sure that the country is food sufficient. Yeah, if there's an external shock, for example, in China, we buy rice from China, India. If all of these things, if there's an external shock,
like COVID-19,
yes, so much so that we can no longer import this rice. Can you imagine the shock it will cause to most Cameroonians?
Because every war in Ukraine.
Yeah, every Cameroonian home, most homes eat rice at least twice a week. If you notice, that's what happened in every country, because it's some sort like one of the cheapest food that people can find in the market to buy these days. So it is a problem. I always blame the government, because the government is like the god of every nation. If your own god, the god of Cameroon, which is the government, is not doing the right thing so that Cameroonians can live well, we can but blame them.
Thank you. Briefly, very brief.
Yes, what my fellow panelists is saying is peace. to me, I don't abide with it because normally, ask yourself that Dangote, before Dangote came with Dangote cement in Cameroon, because to the best of your knowledge, I know that there are 3 companies that are producing cement in Cameroon, but one is almost unknown to many Cameroonians. But Dangote cement came and is producing cement in Cameroon. The truth is that most Cameroonians have that spirit. Most Cameroonians are buy and sell them. They like to buy and sell. They don't want the risk to transform. That means they to them. They look at the process of transformation of setting up a plant and transform to them, because the fact is that you don't.
But the government is the one. The government is the one.
Let me land. You don't need the president to come and tell you that start producing rice. You don't need it. Go with go to and tell the president you want to start producing rice. Then you refused, and I will understand. You are a journalist.
It is not matter.
But if there is any Cameroonian,
they can tell you.
Let me finish. Why is there no Kikaji Defosto? Kaji Defosto and Brother Rizal, most ministers have shares there. To the west of our knowledge, most of them have shares there. Kaji Defosto now is producing UCB, and now he has come up with new products. They have not killed him.
No.
Now let me
talking about a regime of beer.
No, let me finish.
Kaji was during Ahiju, not now.
I said that before Ahiju died, Kaji has only used special pamplemousse and UCB, and King beer. But now they have Kaji, they have Master, they have
expansion of the company.
That's what I'm trying to say. That I'm not
talking about startup.
Okay, let me finish. Let me talk now.
No.
Let me talk. Let me land. Now what I'm trying to say is that
30 seconds.
What I'm trying to say is that how many Cameroonians have gone with their license? We gone and asked Cameroon for license that they want to produce and they don't produce.
The government said it's a buy and sell.
Thank you.
What do you mean?
Let me land now.
Thank you.
Let me land. Why is it that you all put everything in the government?
Okay.
Everything is government. Everything is government.
Okay.
Because as our
Cameroonians are reducing. That's our role. And they are blaming the government on everything.
Okay.
That is why we are like this.
Thank you. We'll come back to you. I come back to you. Yeah. You said a while ago that the government should invest more in agriculture and make many Cameroonians go in agriculture. Your regime in power abandoned hundreds of tractors in the Bolowa in 2010 after the agro-pastoral show, and as we speak, nobody has been, or in fact, the accountability has not been made public to Cameroonians, and images have been circulating on social media about the tractors, and seemingly no care. And these are same tractors that the people of the northwest, the southwest, the eastern part, and in some part in the center and the littoral needed to enhance and to produce. Let's come now to the level of schools, agricultural schools. How much subvention is the state giving them for second generation of agriculture? And do you think that the globalization, I know my questions are many, I'll break them down. Yes. Do you think that the globalization, as you talked about the fact that increment of taxes is a global issue, that's a global issue. Do you think that globalization will come on, rescue itself from globalization by reducing the taxes, whereas other nations are increasing taxes?
Yes, first of all, before I continue, let me give a special thanks to my brother from Dongamantum, Mr. Nding Wanyam, who's been trying all means to see that we produce wheat in Dongamantum. I want to thank him for last time he distributed seeds, and at the learn of recent that he will be distributing oat seeds so that we can start producing oats and wheat in Dongamantum. I'll go gradually. What Barozi said about Cameroonians being just increasing prices at will and we just accept is very true. Cameroonians, first of all, they have lost their rights of consumers. One day, there's an agency which I used to travel from Bamenda here most of the time. I went there one morning and they told me that the transport had been increased from 5,000 to 6,000 francs, and people were paying. I want to ask them, what has caused the increase in this price? Nobody said it. They say, no, they have said that we should pay 6,000, and everybody was paying. Meaning that Cameroonians don't know their rights as far as consumers' rights are concerned. Then secondly, let me go and let me answer a question about the government. I happen to have worked in the microfinance as a credit officer for more than 6 years. In this microfinance, most of the microfinance we have what they call an agricultural account, which is money government has put there for people who are practicing agriculture to borrow, invest in their farms, and pay them back. I bet you I granted credit to more than 10 farming groups. By the time I was leaving that credit union, none of them has been able to pay half of the money. That shows you the type of people we have in Cameroon. Because as soon as they heard that it was government money, there was that laxity, that laissez-faire. People just come, they go and form groups, they come and
initiative groups.
Yes, initiative groups. Money is given to them, they chop the money and they go there. And at the end of it all, President Paul Biya is a bad president. If you cannot manage yourself and you think that you only put the blames on President Paul Biya, that's where we are having it wrong. Concerning the tractors in Eboloa, I've said on several occasions that many people have failed in their duties because as a president of a nation, you cannot work alone. You must assign people that will work with you. And when these people are assigned to work with the head of state, they don't do the job properly. And the blame goes to the head of state, which is very, very bad. I think that for us to build a nation, for us to live in peace, for us to enjoy this country, we must show love in every way that we worked. Then, also I want to add, the reason why we are having more food shortages in Cameroon is because our borders are so porous, so much so that people who have been stationed at the borders to check the flow of goods and the import and export of goods, they have all failed. They are there to collect bribes and allow everything to happen the way it happened. Because if you discover, you see that in Dongamantum, around the Mbembe plants, there is a natural palm tree plantation there that we used to have oil very cheap. But at a certain, they allowed the Nigerians to come in and they exploited everything and went with it to Nigeria. Whereas we have those who are supposed to control our borders who are not doing their job. And at the end of it all, we say President Paul Biya is bad.
But it's not his government appointing those people to work in those borders.
The thing is that, for example, now, if President Paul Biya wants to, there's no machine that detects whether you are corrupt or not. There's no machine.
No, we know. There's not.
The president has said they should not pay the money back, the money for agricultural loan.
I want us to go gradual.
Yes.
You raised issues about people not being able to pay,
yes.
Yeah, which means that you also charge some Cameroonians for being dishonest and not being productive.
Very, very dishonest.
Now, let us go gradually. What you said about the loans. Now, these loans that were granted, what criteria were taken to ensure that these people actually are going to invest in this agriculture and can pay back? No. Was there an investigation done, or was the loan just given based on paper presented?
No.
Was there no follow-up? Because we know that schemes are given to say, okay, the first phase, we give you this amount. Before you take this next amount, we have to come and evaluate. Yeah. The second phase, we have to evaluate till the production. We have to also take part in the production process.
No, evaluation was done, and even these farms were visited, and they were very visible farms. Even in the buying of seeds, we supervised that some of them bought the seeds, they cultivated, harvested, and when they were about to sell it, you will not follow them to the market.
And the food disappeared.
Yes. And at the end, what they told me is that most of the groups that have been dissolved. So that is how dishonest we Cameroonians are. And we keep on blaming President Paul Biya for nothing. If you look at the prices, the price increase in the market, the rate at which prices have increased in the market, it's as if everybody has a right. You just sit in your store and decide that no, this cube of salmon was selling for 300 francs, it's not 325. Everybody come and agree and start buying. Cameroonians don't have that right as consumers to argue for themselves. Everything that they say, no, I went to the market today to buy a cube of salmon, and they say instead of 300 francs, it's 325. Paul Biya is a very bad president. I think it's not
his regime.
It might be his regime, but you don't.
Who takes responsibility?
You don't expect him to come and sit in each and every store in the quarter.
No, I want to get this.
There's price control now.
We should help him.
There's price control.
Control by Cameroonians.
By Cameroonians. Most of the Cameroonians who are corrupt.
Yes.
Very, very corrupt.
So who appointed the corrupt?
People see when people go to the field.
People
go to the field. When people go to the field, what they have been told to do in their offices is not what they do when they are in the field. I go to Bamenda every week. When I go to Bamenda at my one, you see custom officers that are standing there looking very aggressive, very, very, very aggressive. I'm asking myself, is it a border Cameroon? Is it a Cameroon border? I know the customers are at the border. And when you see people that come and they want to exploit Cameroonians for their own benefit, and at the end of it, President Paul Biya is blamed, I feel very, very bad.
we should take responsibility for our action. We should be able to blame our brothers. We should also tell them, no, this thing you are doing. The other day, I had a cartoon. I was going to Bamenda. I wanted that they should hold that cartoon. Then I will ask them, is leaving from Douala to Bamenda, have I trespassed to another country? Then they would have told me. But other people just accept. When they come, they say, no, you are carrying this bag like this, the bag of dress that you are bringing from Douala to Bamenda. You pay at the cost, and you pay happily, and you are going. Please, we should learn to defend our rights.
Okay, when you say we should learn to defend our rights, you raised an issue about the issue of tractors, that it is not President Biya to be blamed. And now, these tractors, we are talking about hundreds of millions. We're talking about almost $1 billion, more than $1 billion, because if you look at the number of tractors and you do a rough calculation, that's budget that could tie a stretch of road. Now, let's get to the government. If you say we should invest, Cameroonians should be blamed. How many farm-to-market roads has your regime constructed? Because if we look at the days of Aijo, there were farm-to-market roads being constructed. How many farm-to-market roads are being constructed? And secondly, I asked the issue of schools agriculture, like Dr. Ningwanyan, Omune School, which is based on agriculture, but they don't receive kind of subvention in terms of supply. Even if you don't want to give subvention, why don't you give materials, agricultural materials, to enable these young graduates to leave school, that when they leave school, they can be able to harness and produce? So should we still also blame now the common man for this? These are not government rules?
That it all boils down to...
So isn't it a shared responsibility?
It's all boiled down to patriotism. See, there are a lot of things that goes on in the government sector that if you hear or it is very shameful. Because there's this laissez-faire attitude that people just say, after all, it's government property. And who is that government property? The government property is for us. And if we cannot take care of those government property and we keep on blaming the government, I think we are missing the point. Those of tractors, maybe the story of tractor what is written on the book might not be what we are seeing. Might not be what we are seeing, because Cameroonians are good at telling lies, feeding the president of the republic with lies, which is very true. Because we might not be moving at a pace that is very favorable to other Cameroonians. But I bet you Cameroon is making progress. And we are not the worst of nations in Africa nor the world. So the thing is that whatever we have in Cameroon, we should be that patriotism. We should know that anything that has to do with government is for our own good. The road is for our own good. The street lights is for our own good. Because sometimes people destroy street light because it's not, after all, it's government property. There is nothing as government property. Everything that government does is for our well-being. And so it is our responsibility to support the government in carrying out its development in one way or the other. Before moving to
Innocent, we talk about the fact that Cameroonians keep blaming the fact that these are government properties. These are government properties. Will you blame the same people who have been isolated from governance, who feel that they have been made to understand that their voices don't count? Let me quote, for example, if you look at the aspect of the Anglophone crisis, where the people meet the people talk, consultation, and most of the subunits that were visited by top politicians, they said they wanted federation. Yes. Including the southwest region. And FACO, let me be very precise, FACO, they said they wanted federation. At the council hall in Boya, where council hall, they said they wanted federation. But when these documents, the people thought now they are participating, but when these documents arrive Yaoundé, I don't know whether a miracle happened along Boya Yaoundé road and somebody prayed on document and the writings changed to say decentralization. When it was presented now to the Prime Minister, head of government, Chief Dr. Joseph Diongute, it was decentralization. Now, will you blame the same people who stood at the council hall, felt they were participating in governance, and now receive a feedback of what they did not say? We used to blame the same people who voted members of parliament, who voted members of parliament, who goes to the parliament and goes and take decisions and don't come back and explain to these people why those decisions were taken. Don't you see they have a right to say it is a government property?
Yes, I would not, what I always blame the people is because they don't choose the right people to represent them. And during elections, many of them are influenced either through money or through other means. If we choose the right person to represent us, we will not cry. But we don't choose the right persons to represent us. And most at times, Cameroonians don't like to take part in elections. They just believe that even we vote, what will change? And they stay behind. So most at times, like those who carry the document were only. Maybe if Cameroonians had voted with their consciences, they would have voted people that can carry their messages to the president raw. But maybe during elections, those people came bribed, and they were voted. And so you don't expect somebody that gave you money to vote for him to tell you the truth, because giving you money is bribing you, and somebody who bribes you has the right to dictate to you because he's ruling you because of his money that he gave you.
Okay.
If we can vote with our consciences and vote the right persons, I don't think that this complaint will come.
Anything about Brazil? You a while ago was not very okay with what Nick said about the fact that the government should take the blame and that salaries should be increased when we are talking about this situation in Cameroon. And why shouldn't Cameroonians blame the government and those in power when these situations about increment in prices and taxes are concerned? Is it the people and the street that make the law that prices of vignette, roadworthiness and physical stamp increase, and also the 10% increasement of price for the expectation of cocoa beans? You are a farmer. If you are producing cocoa beans and now they have added 10% of export, do you think that you can cope with the production of cocoa beans?
Yes, I will not cope. Yes, I will not cope. On that part, the fact is that most Cameroonians are putting all the blames on the government. Before I'm saying that no. Because normally these people who import rice. Me, I've been studying the economy of Cameroon. I realized that when I realized that most of these companies in Douala are owned by foreigners, I was very angry. Because at the end, they carry all the huge profit that they make. Just imagine MTN, Apicam, Cement, the huge profit that they make. Most of those profit goes to foreign countries. Most of the profit go there. They use it to improve on their economy. And we are here. Now, what I'm trying to say is that all these people who import rice, how many of them have gone to the government and say, I want to start producing rice? Because if Cameroonians were actually smart business people, they would have gone to NOP and invest there. Yes, and they will make huge money. Because the fact is even that this tomato that we even sell in the market, you go to the market, you buy this fresh tomato for 200 francs. That same fresh tomato, you can just use only 1 or 2 of those tomatoes. Which one you bought it for 200 francs. They can use only 1 or 2 and make a tin of tomato that will say to you 150 or 100. Which means that 8 like that can give about 4 tins of tomato. That means you have 200 extra profit. Yes, extra gain from it. But Cameroonians are used to buying and selling. Let me not call names, but most of these companies that they sell building materials, they sell other products, food items, fish. How many of them do have fish points? How many of them are fish farmers? They import it from China and import it from elsewhere to come and be selling here. How many of them are actually going to? I went to Boya in August. I thank God for Mr. Vitalis for what he said. He has worked in the Boya because that one is first-hand information. People came there, they gave our agricultural loan. The Cameroonians are not honest. We are even talking of increasing prices. If you see how much they pay, me, I'm a teacher. If you see how much some schools here in Douala, particularly in Bonaberi, pay teachers, you will have just a while ago you said the minimum wage in Cameroon is 38,000. But do you know that? 37,000. But do you know that in Cameroon, here, in Bonaberi, there are schools that pay workers more than 30,000. Secondary school teachers, not even primary school, they are showing less than 30,000 francs. They pay them that amount. But if you see the population of their school, you will baffle. Because they don't have consciences. Because we are just slaves. Our fellow Cameroonians just look at us as slaves. That's why
they take charge of stabilizing this. I'm sure somebody must be responsible to check this. And is it not still the same government that has the secondary education, that do send inspectors to inspect this? Are you by chance saying that the inspectors are corrupt and so the Ministry of Secondary Education is corrupt and so because of the corrupt nature, Cameroonians are being exploited, and you are blaming now those who are being exploited to be wicked? Well,
do you know that in this Douala and in most of these towns in Cameroon they have traffic? Do you know that at times once in a while policemen have been beaten because they are doing their work, attacked by drivers because they are doing their work, Because one driver will just come on the road. What I'm trying to say is that there are laws in Cameroon. We should not always tell the government, because in citizenship they said what? Every citizen needs to obey the laws of the country. It's not a government, the president is also supposed to come and put the gun on your head. And while ago, my fellow panelists is always talking of president. If you look, the president of the World Bank, of the African Development Bank now, he was a former Minister of Agriculture in Nigeria. If you see the giant strides that he made in that sector, because he was a minister, but the Minister of Agriculture in Cameroon, they are trying, as I was saying, I went to Boya in August. That guy has 200 pigs. 200, I asked him that, and chickens, many. I asked him that, but how do you make it? He told me that he wrote a project, and it's free. So if most Cameroonians don't know, it's free. Then he made me to understand. I told him, but I have a brother that has been writing project on this, but he told me that when you write, because as you are writing, other people are also writing. Maybe as they are picking it, because that they just pick it randomly. When they are picking it, maybe they want to sponsor 30. They can pick your first 30 and your name is not there. Next again you write. Because you don't expect them now to start going back to all documents. Because when this year past 2022 is passing, they will shift all those 2022 documents and keep in the archives. So you need to write. You told me that he wrote about 3 times. And now, I saw those 200 pigs, about 1,000 chickens. They told me that they have 3. There are 6 of them. They have 3. And they did that for free. The place was well constructed, done by an NGO. Yes. So now, and that NGO is supported by the government. So what I'm trying to say is that Cameroonians, we should do our own. Yes, we should try and take responsibility. We should try and obey the law. We should not allow the president, wait for the president. When the parliament makes a law, we wait for them to come and put a gun on our head. When you are driving on the road, you want to park, there are spaces for you to park. You park there. There was one time when I was going to school in the morning. I was almost, we were late. When I even went out of the bus, I discovered that one man was in the middle of the road busy sleeping. He was on his car sleeping him on the road, on the middle of the road like that. Maybe he was a big man. When I saw him, I came and asked him, Mr. let's more tranquil.
What does big man mean?
Let's more tranquil. That's why he said, let's more tranquil. Now, that is disorder.
Okay.
So he wants that they should come and put a gun on his head.
You raised an issue that the agriculture, I think World Bank also
World Bank, African Development Bank, yes,
is a former Minister of Agriculture in Nigeria.
Yes.
And so indexing the fact that this minister is working, not only the president that should do the job, but the ministers should do the job.
Yes.
Are you by chance saying Cameroon's Minister of Agriculture is not doing the job, and that we should blame him and not President Biya for not being able to meet up with what he's supposed to do?
Yes, of course. Well, that is exactly what I'm saying.
We should not blame President Biya for appointing him.
See, look, they should not see.
We will come up blaming President Biya.
See, we should not blame President Paul Biya, because first of all, wait, let me finish. We should not blame the president. If you look at the present Minister of Secondary Education, if you see what that woman has done in the educational milieu, you will know that he has tried. And the ministers of agriculture, there is an agricultural school in Chan that has been existing for the years, for decades. There is agricultural school in Gandere. There is agricultural school in Boya. Now, how many Cameroonians like to farm? Because myself, as you said, I'm a farmer. You know me very well. I'm a farmer. Because I realized that the best thing, the best investment that you can invest and you are very sure of is farming. I've been encouraging my friends, but most of them, they are lukewarm. They don't like to do farming. Somebody will even study agriculture and leave agriculture and will be doing something else. But of which agriculture is the best thing that can happen to any nation. If you invest in agriculture, you discover that you are doing a very good thing for your own self. So Cameroonians should love agriculture. They should know agriculture is a life wire of every nation, because if you don't have food to eat, you cannot even talk as I'm talking like this. If I'm hungry now, you'll discover that my voice will change, because the anger will be in me.
Okay.
And all those things like
that. Briefly, before I go to Nick, let's do this mathematics. In Kenya, President William Ruto had subsidized fertilizers. In fact, in some cases, if they used to buy fertilizers for 5,000 shillings, they now buy it for 2,500 shillings. President William Ruto has gone for genetic modified maize to increase production. He has also invested in farm-to-market road. There's also a funding which President Ruto has given, which is known as the Hustlers Fund, where you can get loan from your phone as long as you have a valid recognized SIM card, and you cannot have multiple SIM cards in Kenya. These are government who are doing strive, and they have reduced price of importation of agricultural and farm products. In fact, those who are importing agricultural materials for farming have close to about 40% discount in order to ensure that agriculture move on history. Come to the level of transportation. Transportation itself has been subsidized, reduced such that people can do transportation. Farm-to-market roads are being improved upon. These are strides being made by the East African community. Let's come to Cameroon in itself. Let's look at fertilizers. You said that we should not blame President Biya, that we should also look at the fact that Cameroonians are not careful and Cameroonians are lazy and sometimes dishonest. But if you have a bag of fertilizer, let's put it this way, what they call 2010-10. If a bag of 2010-10, let's say it's 15,000 francs CFA, 15,000 francs, and now has been moved to 25,000 francs CFA, an additional of 10,000 francs. And a local farmer who used to buy one bag of fertilizer for 15,000 francs CFA to plant his maize, now we need to buy it for 25,000 francs CFA. Means that is 15,000 francs CFA, the value for money has dropped. So it means that he would buy that 25,000 francs, go and produce maize. Let's say he produces 50 head of maize, and he produced that. If he has to sell, will you blame him for increasing the prices, or will you blame President Biya, whose government has not been able to subsidize this? Let's look at farm-to-market road. How much is being put in by the government to increase farm-to-market road? You also talked about the fact that the schools, how much is being put in research at the level of the Institute of Agricultural Research, like the IRAT, Ekona, the IRAT, Batoke. How much are being put in for researchers? How much money is being given for agro research as compared to money being given for the military? If you look at the common budgetary allocation, how much money does the Ministry of Agriculture receive as compared to other ministries? The President of the Republic budget is higher than that of Agriculture. The Ministry of Defense higher than that of Agriculture. You look at other related ministries higher than that of Agriculture. In fact, Agriculture is competing with the ministry, almost competing with some ministries like Communication and some with little budget. And now, don't we blame this allocation, or does the President does not see this allocation?
Okay, let me ask a question. My brother, my fellow panelist,
Mr.
I'm asking you a question. He said that there was a loan. There is a loan. I'm asking you a question. Now, one thing to say is that what? If the government budget 100 billion for agriculture, for a loan for 2022, and realize that even 50% of that loan was not taken because Cameroonians are not interested in agriculture, do you think that same government next year will still budget? If next year they still budget again that same amount, then they see that they discover that people are not interested. Better carry this money and put it elsewhere that people will be interested in. Now, say, let me tell you something. If you look at it, like in the educational, in the education, the reforms that has been made by the Minister of Secondary Education has related to employment of almost more than 1,000 teachers, both private and governments. Yes, now he has done that. Even in the GC board, he has also resulted to many teachers now. Many people now are working in the GC board as examiners because of what? Because of the reform brought by the Minister of Secondary Education. Okay, now if if people are not serious in taking the loans, you think that they'll continue giving the loans? Now, let me finish. Let me learn now. Concerning farm to market roads.
Yes.
That is where the government, the minister of agriculture needs to concentrate there, because myself personally, I went to Easy now, bought a farm there. They told me that very soon they will come and dug the road. When I planted, as I'm talking here, there are plantains there, but you cannot carry one to bring to town.
So we should blame the
So no, the minister of agriculture needs to make sure that they make farm to market roads, because Cameroonians have a lot of food in the farms, but they cannot remove it.
So the tractors that were the tractors that were abandoned at Ebola, the people were not willing to come and collect tractors.
No, that one had criteria. That one has
People
criteria.
don't meet the criteria.
I don't know
and
the
they
criteria.
abandon it and
See,
to follow.
look, I earlier said Cameroonians are wicked. From 1 year old Cameroonian, from one, I'm included. From 1 year old Cameroonian to the highest level, all of us are wicked. Because if not wicked, then the minister who is in charge of agriculture would have known that at least there are people who need these things.
Okay.
Maybe they were not
Thank
able
you.
to make themselves here.
Thank you. You said Cameroonians are wicked.
Yes.
The president of the republic is a Cameroonian.
Yes, he's wicked.
The president of the republic heads Cameroon.
Yes.
The president of the republic is the guarantor of security and the #1 statesman. So therefore, to you, you are charging the president of Cameroon being wicked.
I'm saying that everybody
you are charging the president of the republic.
I don't know whether
No, you said
I don't know whether it's
Cameroon,
because that.
no,
I'm
asking you.
Cameroonians don't
wicked.
care. Cameroonians don't care because if
Okay,
the
so
president,
you're saying the president doesn't care.
If the president cares about Cameroonians and the particular minister is not working, and the minister of agriculture, that the president knows there is too much cocoa in the farm that cannot be removed. There is too much plantain in the farm that cannot be removed. Cocoa yams that cannot be removed. The president would have sacked that minister and
So
put
you are
another
going
minister
back to
that.
what Nick said. That should be there.
What don't you say that? Look, see, look, they blame. What don't you say that? No, I'm not. I'm trying to see. I'm trying to balance it. You understand? I'm trying to balance it because I cannot just blame only the
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, Javis. I have been listening to Mr. Vitalis over the last weeks, and I must come to the conclusion that he is a real patriot. Salaries can be increased just by stopping embezzling of state funds and investing those funds in development. This is coming from Max in Germany. Max, who is also a participant in the House of Commons group, wants to say thank you for your message. And this other one says, good afternoon to you people in the studio. Please don't call us. Good afternoon to you people in the studio. Ruling this country, rulers. Good afternoon. The people ruling this country don't care about common man because the increase in tax does not affect those who matter. So it is the problem of the common man. Is the CPDM representative a true member of the said party? If yes, then I pray God gives him long life so that he should one day be the president of this country. This is coming from Carlo from Loom. That's the same thing that some people have been asking if Vitalis. This one right, it says agricultural production in Cameroon is largely subsistent. The government has very little to do with the numerous foodstuffs exported to other countries such as tomatoes, pineapples, and other fresh fruit and vegetables. It is true that most of these people exporting are looking to maximize profit, and they will sell wherever they deem lucrative for business. The government has to discourage exportation of these products by increasing excess duties and even placing embargo on some foodstuffs. Take, for example, in Bamenda, now a basket of tomato costs between 10 to 12,000 francs CFA. In an economy like this one, if the government doesn't regulate the market forces, then pure capitalism will set in, which is a disadvantage to consumers. I don't think that any iota of consumer protection in Cameroon. Most officials in the echelons of the government have no problem with the rising prices. It is true, as our brother from Donga Mantu is saying. I tend to understand that the main problem in Cameroon is individualism. All man for himself and God for we all. Is coming from an anonymous sender. This one reads, good afternoon, Mr. Javis, and greetings to the panelists. In fact, this year program is very good one. We are really enjoying it here. I just want to confirm and add to what the panelists just said about food availability in Cameroon. Mr. Javis, I want to say he is very correct to say this government is not serious at all concerning that, because like he said, to see a Cameroonian who is successful to have a balanced diet in Cameroon or to have 3 square meals per day is very, very difficult. For example, if someone see you eating very good and complete meal, and let's say putting beside your plate something like a fruit and a bottle of wine in front of you, which is normal to eat, and drink wine, you will hear the person will say, my brother, you dey enjoy. Which goes now to confirm that he just said that here in Cameroon, having a complete diet is just like luxury. Here, which is not supposed to be the case. Truly, this government is not serious at all. The reign of the President Biya is Divine writing from Victoria. Thank you very much, Divine. Writing from Victoria. Good things to you guys in the studio. With an increase in taxes of basic commodities, it is very normal for the government to increase salaries, encourage the private sector to invest so as to create jobs. The government should do meaningful investment in agriculture. The same government should encourage foreign investors. It is dishonest to say that that windscreen tax will not affect the common man. I am Aye Fred writing from Douala. This one reads, it says, good afternoon to you in the studio. Good afternoon to you in the studio. Please, I want to ask the teacher if Cameroon government collect tax, but why can the government not follow up other issues or follow up the people she employed to have them to do their job well? This one right, say good morning. Parlez aussi en français que je peux aussi répondre à. Je suis désolé, Cameroun est bilingue. C'est-à-dire, il faut que tu sois aussi bilingue. Cameroun est bilingue. Donc, c'est-à-dire, on doit parler seulement en anglais. Il y a une émission en français. L'émission en français est déjà passée. C'était à 10h, 11h50. C'est déjà passé. C'était Victime 237. Mais c'est mieux que tu aussi comprennes un peu anglais. Pour on continue cette émission. Please, I wish to know why during the Muslim feast the government will reduce price for goods, but during Christmas prices are always increasing. This is coming from an anonymous sender. This one reads, says, a good day to you in the studio. I am Ken Joseph from Koto Douala. The impact of increasing prices with the basic commodities will direct affect basic wages of a common man. We should stop focusing only on agriculture, because agriculture is not the only basic commodities. The government is increasing 10% on export of agricultural products. It's not the profit made from those products. For instance, look at the banana produced in Penja and CDC, cocoa beans product, etc. Most of these products are exported, even subsidized, given by the government, do not even reach the common man. When the government encourage export of agricultural products, this is to create shortage, and it will lead to an increase in prices. As a result, increased tax. In my point of view, the government should increase the basic salary and reduce prices of imported products and tax on the basic commodities, and take policies to encourage the consumption of our local product from the farms. What can $38,650 in dollars, which is 62.4? What can this do to a common man? Nothing. Basic salaries in Cameroon can even pay basic necessities, expenses such as house rent, food, clothing, water, bills, electricity, transportation, expensive, etc. An average house in Douala is between 15,000 to 20,000. These are expensive, incurred even by common man. Thus, we should not limit minimum wage to agriculture, because agriculture is just one sector of the economy. We are almost out of time. Let me take on just other last message. Greetings to you guys in the studio. Your first speaker is CPGM, like a politician and not an economist. You were supposed to invite people like the second speaker. If the government wants to invest in agriculture, the simple way is to reduce the tax on agricultural input. If that is done, all farmers will benefit and not select a few, like in the case of FODEC program, know ye that to reduce these prices and eventually prevent inflation will depend on tax reduction. Also know that inflation is not high prices. It is much more money in circulation, and it has its consequence. So for now, we don't have much money in circulation. The government simply wanted to collect the little Cameroonians have to pay their debt. Not also that before the war in Ukraine, prices of commodities were already high before and after hosting the AFCON. So you want to tell us Cameroonians that it is Russia or Ukraine feeding the world? This is young Kenneth. You seem to disagree with a lot of things they said.
Obviously.
Yes.
Yeah, all I'm saying is my fellow panelists are trying to deviate us from seeing the source of our problem. Because to solve a problem, you have to see the source. Many Cameroonians don't know how to solve problems. You have to see where the source of the problem is coming from. And I am saying that the problem of agriculture in Cameroon is nothing but the government. I'm saying so because I'm not just saying I'm saying so because I have knowledge in agriculture, I know. I'm a farmer from my young age up to today, and I happen to have studied agriculture, and I'm also doing comparative studies in other countries and see how the agricultural sector is organized. If you take, for example, like the United States of America, only 5% of their population is involved in agriculture. 5%. But in Cameroon, they're just confusing us with issue of agriculture. What they are encouraging us is that we should go to the farming. That's just the basic level of agriculture. And you cannot encourage all of these young people to go and be farming like their parents. They go and do the same farming. They saw themselves suffering, going to the farm to cultivate crops and so on and go to the market and sell. And you cannot encourage as the way is changing and then tell the young people to go and do the same thing like their forefathers did. No, all of these things, agriculture has planting, you have to plant, you get them from the farm. The government has to be involved at every level. If there was true decentralization, the issue of farm to market road would have been left to the councils to do. We don't expect the ministry or the ministries to come to the villages and then construct farm to market road. This should be the work of councils to do if there was true decentralization. And we blame the government for not decentralizing. And the government is supposed to be strategic when it comes to agriculture. There are these are key sectors of the economy that only technocrats have to man them. But if you look at those who are manning the agricultural ministries in Cameroon, what expertise do they have in all of these ministries? Agriculture, food security is supposed to be like the military. If you take, for example, you see that they will never take an ordinary man to be a general to go and lead war or to go and fight war. That general has to have gone to a war school. You have to have undergone training. But when it comes to other sectors of the economy, why is it that we take any Jack and Jill, any person to go and begin to man agricultural, which is a very sensitive sector of the economy, that they don't know what to do, they don't know how to plan to move the government or to invest, to move the government out of this mess so that there is food security. I'm saying that every regime, if somebody wins election today, they are supposed to have a manifesto by saying that maybe before the end of my tenure, I have to make maybe Cameroon to be food sufficient.
But we have a manifesto now. When President Pobia took over, President Pobia opened plantation. We saw President Pobia in a big pineapple plantation and also in agricultural show, encouraging Cameroonians. In 2013, President Pobia called on Cameroonians to invest in agriculture. In 2019, President Pobia also reiterated agriculture. In 2020, he reiterated the fact that agriculture, he said, tout le monde, il faut que tout le monde tombe à la terre. Everybody should go down to the field. And don't you think that his manifesto,
it's just like
he also had his manifesto for second generation agriculture.
It's just like telling your children to go and do hunting with bow and arrows in the forest where others are using guns to hunt. And you can best know the results. And so all of this thing we're talking about is just noise they're making. It's not serious. I've said that agriculture is supposed to be a very strategic something that you sit down and plan, you bring technocrats into it. Is from food production to food transformation. This is what we are not even able to produce, talk less of transformation. Because transformation is where now the real gains will come in, or the real profits really come in. But in Cameroon, we are still even at the level of having problems of production. And we are saying that we'll blame by the government for not strategizing and planning this sector well, leaving the sector into the hands of Bayam-Selams. If we lift a whole, for example, the fish sector in Cameroon is left in the hands about 90% is controlled by one person, the fish sector in Cameroon. How this person doesn't even own a fish farm in Cameroon. If a serious government would not allow this kind of monopoly to happen, and if it goes like that in all other sectors of basic food necessities. You see that all of these things have been monopolized by the CPD and big wings that they hide under the party, and then to impoverish Cameroonians, to milk them.
Are you saying that Mr. Vitalis decided to impoverish Cameroonians?
No, I'm not talking about. I'm saying that it's not a big wing. I'm talking about the CPD and big wing. I'm talking about the CPD and big wing that are controlling sensitive sector of the country, like rice, fish, and so on. They know themselves.
We're out of time.
So they're hiding by under the party. It's not like they love Cameroonians.
Let's take some few messages. This one's a good afternoon, Mr. Javis. If taxes were increased simultaneously with salary, the common man won't feel the effect. But the truth be told, taxes are increased, and the public sector, which has the power to regulate salaries in public and private sector, does not do anything to help the population. That is because they care less on how their population functions on daily basis. Terence writing from Mutengene. This one right says, can Cameroonian, this year we bought fertilizer 2010 in salt for 45,000 francs. Can Cameroonian not produce fertilizers? This is 2010 for 45,000 francs CFA, and it's coming from an anonymous sender. As I did mention, 2010 used to be 15,000, 10,000, 15,000, and now we are talking about 45,000 francs in salt, and which has tremendously increased. Therefore, the money value for that 10,000 francs cannot buy fertilizer. If you look at this situation, writing from an anonymous sender. Jane from Boya says, I send greetings to you in the studio, and I love all the ideas given by the panelists. Cameroonians should be honest in all positions they find themselves. We are out of time. Mr. Vitalis, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Mr. Javis.
No, maybe let me tell you, Innocent, thank you for coming to you, because the camera is not you. Innocent, thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you very much, and I want to thank my fellow panelists. And I want to say Cameroonians need to be honest. We need to obey the laws. We should stop blaming everything on the president, and the president should also take his responsibility to make sure that anybody that is not performing well, he fires the person and bring in some people who have the people, somebody who need the people at heart. And very soon he will go maybe on retirement, and we pray that he should go on a clean slate, so that he should try and do something, so that at least give us farm to market routes, so that we can transport our crops from the farm to the market and sell and make some money for ourselves.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Vitalis.
Yes, thank you, Javis. I want to react to that guy from Kumbu, because I happen to have come from that part of the area. When you talk about farm to market road, I was in Kumbu when Mayor Njong Donatus was the mayor of Kumbu, and you needed to have seen the type of farm to market road that he created in Kumbu. It was really, really marvelous. So people should not just be hiding and saying that there's no digitalization, so roads cannot be constructed. Mr. Mayor Njong did a lot of
this person talking about the buy 2010 fertilizers now in Kumbu for 45,000.
Yes, I will also blame it on the separatists, because now for you to go to Kumbu, you cannot go to Rundop. The separatists, as if it is the capital.
But the government said everything is under control. Why do they blame the separatists? Where is the head of state, guarantor of national security, guarantor of integrity, and #1 statesman, commander-in-chief of the armed force of Cameroon?
Those are words sent to president by those who don't love this country. If you love this country sincerely, you will not say that everything is under control in which division. Because I've seen videos from people just last week where people have been slaughtered in their houses, whether by whoever, on the fire gun one man. So we should be honest enough to say what we see on the field and not what.
We're out of time. Thank you.
Thank you,
Nick, for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Javis. At the end of the day, we keep blaming the man of the house. If your house is not in order, we'll blame by the head of the family. So.
Thank you to all those who took our time to participate. This program comes out every Sunday at exactly 12 to 1:30. If you want to be a panelist to this program, you want to participate on the debates of this program, you can contact me on the numbers on your screen, 676431384, 676431384. You can contact me on the numbers on your screen, and I will be there to host you for the program. I'll leave you with this: no matter the matter, what matters is your matter. No matter the matter, what matters is your matter. And what should matter for you is that you should stay out of trouble. My name is Tah Mai Javis from Cameroon's commercial capital, Douala, Fengu, John Bange, Kotobo, Namusadi. Bye-bye.